Welcome to Drum and Drummer, a podcast focused on drums, drumming and drummers. I'm George Pickering and that's Ben Winty, and we are both professional drummers in this business we call music. So stick around and join us as we pass the time whilst trying to stay in time.
If I was selling washing machines, I would be losing my mind with boredom.
Drummer, friend, podcaster, co-host, all-round legend, it's George Pickering joining me once again.
Love that.
You're welcome.
I never know what they're going to be.
Yeah.
And I feel like sometimes you'll start something and I'll interrupt it before it's over. So I was like, I'm going to make sure this is finished. And I'm glad I did.
Yeah.
Because
you
nice
could have stopped me
things.
before legend.
No.
And then you'd have been kicking yourself.
Yeah, I would have been kicking myself.
Yeah.
But what if what if you carried on and just got worse and worse? Legend.
What else would I go with?
I don't know.
Eric
really.
Ten Hag lookalike.
Yeah, I'll take that.
Jumper wearing.
Yep. See, this is it. Already I can tell by the tone of your voice, it's going to start to get mean.
Iron Man athlete. No,
Well,
what did you
yeah.
do? What was it? Was it an Iron Man?
Well, it was a half Ironman. It's
Ironman.
a double triathlon. But let's not talk about that.
No.
That was an excuse because people will see, ooh, Graham Russell, and now everyone thinks, who's this triathlete doing a drum podcast, you know?
Yeah, we have Graham Russell on the show this week from Graham Russell Drums, the eponymous drum shop. Is that the right phrase?
It's a good phrase. I
Named
don't know if
after
it's
him.
the right one.
Yeah, someone we've wanted to have on the show for quite a while.
Someone that's been
where-
requested as well.
Definitely, yes. A place where I've spent a lot of my money.
And time.
And time. UK's largest drum shop here on the south coast in Fareham. He was very kind to spend a bit of time out of his busy day to chat to us. It was good.
Is that all we need to say?
I think that's all we need to say. We'll just go straight in. Yeah. Enjoy. Here's Graham Russell.
Have we started yet?
Yeah, we just kind of
Okay, we have
flow
started.
into it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't want to save anything for the actual podcast. Yeah, the store's great. It's hectic. I've literally just got back from one of my customers lives in North Dorset. I recently bought 34 drum kits from him, which created chaos in store. 34 kits, all cased. So we had over 200 cases arrive. We dealt with that. And I went back there last week and I bought 28 snare drums from him, all cased, and 5 bags of hardware. So the shop looks like a bomb's gone off. So we have a lot of stock.
I remember I came in and you just got back with those 34 kits.
Yeah.
And I'd never seen the shop so full.
Exactly. Well, it's not as bad as that, but I mean, this customer has 70 kits. He's been a customer for quite a while, but you're probably thinking he has a massive house, but he doesn't. So he lives in a small cottage in Dorset near Shaftesbury. And he needed to create some space because he's got some family members coming to live with him for a short while. So he got rid of 34 kits, but he's still buying kits from me as well, which is marvellous. So he ordered a brand new kit. And then last week I went to him, we've now done a deal on another kit. So it's not a one-way traffic thing. I mean, he's still getting kits from me, which is good. So he's very enthusiastic about gear, which obviously goes without saying, as we all are. And he's still probably got 20 or 30 snares and at least 30 kits left. So it's an ongoing situation that we're more than happy to get involved in, you know?
So I think, the second-hand market with yourselves seems to be quite key, because I first visited you when you was, I think it was at your house.
Okay.
You were, and I bought some second-hand cases from you from your garage, and then a few years later, yes, you moved into Fort Fareham.
Yeah.
How did it start? Like, and was second-hand the kind of was that the entry point for yourself?
That was certainly the entry point. It started because I was a fanatical drummer. I always wanted to play drums from an early age, and I finally got a kit when I was 13 and taught myself. I mean, I'm not much of a player compared to the guys in store who just frighteningly good. But I always loved playing the drums, so I just joined a few bands, and I always wanted great gear. I used to love going to drum shops, like going to Kingfisher in Fleet and Fret Music in Southampton, and just stare at the kits and dream of having a Zildjian cymbal or a Premier resonator, as it was in the day. And that's, went through different situations with secondhand kits and played in different bands. But as things went on, my love of gear never went away. I was fascinated by snare drums and cymbals and who's got what and who plays what. I was more interested in that than in practicing, which is probably why I never made it as a drummer. But and then I played in numerous bands in my 20s. And one day I was just looking around online and I found a kit for sale. And it was in Newcastle upon Tyne. Now, bear in mind, I live on the south coast near Southampton. But it seemed like a great deal to me. It had drums, cymbals, and hardware. And I phoned the guy up and he said, yeah, it's as new. And I drove to Newcastle, which was nearly 7 hours. And I picked it up and I gave him his money. And he was packing up. He was going to spend all his money on fishing gear or something. And I drove back for another 7 hours thinking, this is the greatest thing ever. I've got this marvellous drum kit, lovely stands, lovely cymbals. And I kept the bits I wanted and I sold some bits and made a profit. And I was like, this is probably the greatest day's work I've ever done in my life. I had done numerous dead-end jobs that I'd hated and I'd worked in computers, which is a joke because I'm very poor at computers. I used to turn my phone off. And then I started looking around. This was at the dawn of the internet. This is the early days of eBay and things like what used to be the free ads. It's now, I don't know what it's called now. Free ads online or in local paper. So I then started looking for drum kits. So I'd find a drum kit with stands and cymbals and I'd buy it and split it up and I'd keep a couple of cymbals and sell a couple of cymbals. And next thing you know, I had 5 kits in my house and local drummers were coming around and trading stuff with me. It was just a little hobby. But it grew and word got out. Oh, Graham will trade drum kits and Graham will trade this or that. So the local drummers were coming to see me and I started doing little newsletters of stock that I had and I'd put it up in rehearsal rooms locally. So there'd be a list of 5 or 10 kits. I'd put it in a rehearsal room. I'd say this is pre-internet, pre-eBay. It wasn't, people weren't emailing or certainly not Instagramming or Facebooking then. So then local rehearsal studios put a bit of marketing in there. People would phone me up. Before you knew it, my house was overrun with drum kits. My wife, luckily, is very clever. She's an accountant and understands business. And she's like, well, you've got to get a credit card terminal. I'm like, I knew nothing about business. I knew nothing about finance. I didn't realize I had to pay to have a credit card terminal. And then it's like, you've got to get a website. I was like, this is a whole new world to me. I was sending out newsletters in the post. I would type up an A4 sheet and I'd send it to people through the post. I was like, it's laughable now. And that grew and grew until eventually we built a room in my garden, which is probably where you came to my house, on the back of the garage. And we built that thinking, well, this will be great. Could have all the drums in there because I had it in the house. And we had 2 young children. People come around to look at a kit and my wife's trying to feed a 6-month-old baby, So we built a room in the garden, which was big, and we filled that with drums. But within 2 years, it was round. The business just kept growing. And then we're thinking, what are we going to do? This is taking over our lives. People come around evenings, they come around weekends. Somebody even called me on Christmas Day and said, hi, Graham, I've got some money for Christmas. Can I come and look at some kits? Now, I'm not a particularly religious guy, but I was like, mate, it's Christmas Day, not today. Any other time. But yeah, every weekend, every evening, someone was coming to my house, buying stuff, trading stuff. And we weren't selling anything new, had no new accounts at all. And then this unit that we're currently in Fort Fareham was available. It used to be a drum shop and it had been sat empty for 2 years. And, coming from home to here, this is enormous. It's 5,500 square feet. So I said to Hayley one day, why don't we look at that unit in Fareham? And she said to me, you're mad. She said, it's enormous. We don't need anything that big, which we didn't. But long story short, we had a look at it and we spoke to the guy that owned it. And next thing you know, we've made an offer on it. We bought it. Moved in 12 years ago this November. And at that point, we then instantly got like a Remo account and a Hardcase account. I think the first guy who came to see me was Jerry from Cork, and he gave me a Mapex account. Because I think I had 6 Mapex kits in stock that were second hand. And he said to me, you've got more Mapex kits than most Mapex dealers, so I might as well give you an account. So, and then it just snowballed from there. So yeah, 12 years here and it's gone crazy. So here we are. Sorry, I'm talking too much.
No, it's great.
No, don't apologise for that, please.
Because I think one thing, you alluded to with yourself was there's something special about drums and seeing them and the physical nature of looking at them and playing them. And one thing I love about coming to your shop is how relaxed you are, trying things out and having to hear things for yourself and and the
Yeah,
space and time you give people to go and do that.
I think that's always been based on the fact that, you know, me, myself, and the guys that work here, Sam, Jimmy, Rob, you know, they're all extraordinary players. They're super passionate about the instrument. They're not here just because it's a job. I'm not here just because I can make a profit or pay my rent. If I was selling washing machines, I would be losing my mind with boredom. But the product, I've got a kit here in my room. I keep glancing at it. It's beautiful. We are all in the shop still excited when a box arrives and we open it and it's something that's like, wow, it's one of those. We still have that childlike enthusiasm for the product. They are beautiful things, and I don't think it's just because we're drummers that we think that, because we have a lot of families come in. You know, a couple will come with their son or daughter, but the mums and dads who don't even play will go, my God, they're beautiful. And they will look at the kits set up, and it is a very beautiful thing to look at, even if you're not a drummer. I think they are aesthetically very pleasing, and that certainly with the finishes and the woods and the lacquers combined with the chrome or the gold or whatever, it's just such a beautiful thing to look at. I don't think you need to be a drummer to be kind of enthralled by the look of a beautiful drum kit, and obviously we have a lot here. And you say we're relaxed and we let people try things. Well, that's just down to me wanting everyone to have a great experience. I've been to many, many drum shops in my life, particularly when I was younger, and been very intimidated by the guy behind the desk who's playing paradiddles at 200 BPM and is pretty offhand with you and not very welcoming. That's pretty scary as a young kid. You feel kind of like, oh, I don't want to be in here. And I never wanted it to be like that. I wanted it to be like, no, come in, have a cup of tea, have a cup of coffee. Let's have a great time, because it's drums. This isn't, there's lots of other horrible things going on in the world. We've all got troubles to deal with. But if we're looking at drum kits, that's got to be the best part of your day. And if someone's made the effort to come to my store, I want to go away going, that was fantastic. If they're going away having a bad time, then we failed. And I drum this into all the staff. If you came to my house to see me, I would offer you a cup of tea. I would try and make it a pleasant experience. The fact you're coming to my store to buy drums, to me, it's not about how much money can I get off you. It's making sure you get exactly what you need, whether you need a £100 snare drum or a £2,000 snare drum, giving you the choice. So, well, why don't you try that one, and that one? And by the way, your husband, wife, son or daughter can have a cup of coffee and there's a sofa there to sit on, because they might not want to sit in a drum shop for 2 hours. It's probably a nightmare idea for someone to drive with their family and go to a drum shop if the people aren't interested in drums. So why not make it a nice experience for everybody? And certainly the person buying the drums, the more they can try, the better understanding they have of what they need. They can talk to someone like Sam or Jimmy or Rob, who've done most things. They've done lots of gigs, they've done lots of recording, they've tried all the gear. So if someone's looking for a certain sound, I'm playing this band, or that kind of sound, the guys can help them achieve that. And it's not a case of, I'll come in, what do you want? Take your money, off you go. We want you to go away going, that was great. And people travel from all over the country to come here. There's so few drum shops still going, and very few that have the level of stock that we have, that people will come from Cornwall, which is a 5-hour drive from where we are. People come from Kent, people come from Devon. We had a family in last weekend down from Ipswich. It's a 3.5-hour drive. Mum, son, came down, tried out a load of kits. They had a fantastic time. They went home happy with a DW kit. And I spoke to her and she said, well, I spoke to several drummers around where we live and they said, well, you better go to Brian Russell's, which is thrilling for me. But we have that reputation. But it's a case of always trying to make it as good as we can. As I say, it's a complete passion. It's not just a business and a way to... if I knew how to work my phone, because I'm trying to put it on Do Not Disturb, which seems to be impossible. Sorry about that.
That's right.
So, yes, I'm wittering on about my store, but we want you to come and try things out. We want you to bring all your drummer friends and make it a day out, because there's plenty to look at. We've got 180 snare drums. We've probably got about 75 kits. So there's plenty to look at. It's not just, some music shops that just have a couple of kits covered in dust in the corner and 3 pairs of sticks on the shelf. It's not like that here. I remember going to shops in America when I was a kid. I was lucky enough to go to America with my parents on holiday and go to some big drum shops in America. And that was such a wow, because they do things bigger, obviously, over there. They have more space. So you go to some shops in New York or San Francisco, it would blow your mind. This was back in the 80s, but and I've always remembered that. I was like, well, you got to have as much as you can, you know.
Yeah, and on behalf of all drummers, thank you for that homely feeling whenever I mean, I'll say, I think the first time I went into your store, I can't remember how old, but I was sort of, is this the right place? And you're in an industrial sort of area.
The outside, it doesn't look like it.
This is it. And then I went in and I must have looked a bit lost, or I don't know. And I was sort of vaguely looking to buy a cymbal, but I didn't really know if I didn't need a cymbal, but I was like, well, I'd like a new crash. And you greeted me and said, oh, can I get you a tea or a coffee? And it almost shocked me. I said, I've never been in a shop and been offered a tea or a coffee, and then I stayed there for a few hours, and I think I spoke to other people working there, and I remember thinking, oh, whenever I need anything now, I'll come here. It's sort of like a no-brainer. But you're correct.
That's lovely to hear, and that's all I ever ask of my staff is like, ensure people have a good time, because you can go into your supermarket or your corner shop, and the person working there might not want to be working there. They might be a bit grumpy, and they're just trying to get through their day. And I never want it to be like that. I don't care if someone's gone 5 minutes or 5 hours. I don't care if they're buying a pair of sticks or a 15 grand drum kit. They've come into my shop, and to me, that's like coming into my house. I'm going to make them welcome, and I want them to go home and tell all of their drummer friends that it was great. There's that old adage that if you have a great meal in a restaurant, you'll tell 3 people. If you have a terrible meal, you'll tell 20 people. And that's the thing, especially in this day and age, where if you upset somebody, if you upset a customer, they're straight on Trustpilot, they're straight on Facebook, they're straight on everywhere, completely slating you. It's so easy to complain now because of the internet, particularly. And I don't think we are a nation of complainers. However, online, that's a whole different can of fish. If DPD fail to deliver a parcel the time they say they're going to deliver it, sometimes the online reviews you get are quite catastrophic. It's like I've eaten their children. And ultimately, we do our best. We always do our best, and we'll do our best to solve every problem. But sometimes I think you have to realize that it's not me. DPD aren't my company. Yes, I've given them the job of delivering your sticks, but if that van driver doesn't turn up, it's not actually my fault. I'll do my best to solve it. But that's most of our problems. And I'm not slagging off DPD because they're great. They're probably one of the best carriers we've used. They are the best carrier we've used. But you're always at the mercy of that particular driver.
How do you find that? I mean, you mentioned that, a lot of drum shops have closed over the years. And so what's keeping Graham Russell going? For me, I feel like the used market and part exchanging is...
I think that helps.
Especially like bricks and mortar stores, I mean...
Yeah. I think
so many are losing to online, but like I said, buying drums is something that, I'd never... very rarely buy something without trying it in drum world. So is that very nature of a drum shop what keeps a brick and mortar store going? Or
if I had a great secret, I might not want to share it with the world of drum store owners. However, no, I don't. I think this is a huge conversation, and I will probably just start wittering for hours now, because there's a few facets to that question. What's keeping us going? It's going to sound predictable, but a lot of hard work. It's very hard to make it work. And I think that's why so many shops have now failed. Excuse me. The problems are several. I mean, you have online retailers that are happy to sell at very low margin, as long as they're shifting enough. I think customers, obviously, with the internet, will find the best price, and you can do that instantly on anything, whether you want a fridge or whether you want a car tire or a snare drum. You go onto Google and you find the cheapest price. That's the world we live in. I accept that, and I have to deal with that basis. However, that can be frustrating when there may be a company that hasn't updated their prices for 2 years, or more often, they don't have that product in stock. A guy I know very well in the drum retail world said to me, well, I can be cheaper than anybody when I haven't got it in stock. The bottom line is, when you've invested in stock and it's in your shop, and you've paid the invoice, and someone says, well, I can get it for X amount, and you look at it and you think, well, I'm making absolutely no money on this. So how is that person doing it? And then you dig a bit deeper and realize they've either had that product in stock for 2 years and the price has gone up 2 times since they bought it, Or actually, they haven't got it in stock at all, but they don't update their website. So many websites I go on, you can't always tell whether it's in stock or not. And you go think, oh, I'm going to buy that. And you click on it, and then it says out of stock. And I think this is a major frustration for a lot of the public with online shopping, because more often than not, shops don't have what they appear to have on their website. So that's a problem. That's not entirely answering your question as to what's making us still be here. I would say we work very hard to keep our website up to date. We work very hard at having the best stock levels at all time. I think having it in stock is very important. We obviously do part exchange, which we've always done for second-hand goods. But I think you'll find most shops do that now. I find most shops are around with second-hand gear because everyone's cottoned on to the fact that it's so hard to make any margin on new stuff, and the margins are so small that with second-hand stuff, you can maybe, it can supplement your income somewhat. The costs of running a retail shop are significant, particularly a unit this size. So just, the heat and light, let alone the rent or the mortgage and the staffing, our costs are astronomical. So we have to do a lot every month just to keep our head above water. But luckily, we've always managed to just about do that. As the company's grown, we've obviously taken on more staff. Our costs have constantly spiraled, as they have for everybody. When your electricity bill goes up by 60%, that's a hard one because your sales haven't gone up by 60% and your margins certainly haven't. So I think it's a combination of things. We have great staff, we have good stock, we keep our website up to date, we do a lot of social media, so we engage with our customers and we try and keep people enthused about what we've got, and we turn our stock quickly. So if you come in today and you come in 2 weeks' time, there won't be the same stuff sat on the shop floor. It changes all the time. So looking after our customers, trying to give them good customer support, trying to make sure we go back to people when they send in inquiries. Again, we get hundreds of emails a day, and that's a massive job for the two guys on the front desk to be dealing with those. And sometimes people are like, oh, you haven't come back to me. It's like, mate, literally you've emailed in 2 hours ago and I got a shop full of people. We're not Amazon. We don't have teams and teams of people just sat dealing with emails and answering phones. There's 4 or 5 of us in store at any one time, but you only need a couple of customers to come in and suddenly the phone rings and you're struggling. So that's a battle we constantly have to deal with, is trying to have enough staff to keep the service levels up. But every time you take on another member of staff, the overheads go up and that's more money going out. I'm very lucky with Hayley, my wife. She's very financial. She keeps a tight rein on the money, paying the bills and looking after all the admin side of the business, which is a joy for me because no one wants to be dealing with VAT or PAYE or health and safety or insurance or phone contracts. And she loves a bit of that. She loves a bit of paperwork. And she's very she's very switched on with making sure that things are done the right way. It'd be so easy to buy a load of stock, not have enough money, not pay your bills. Then you go and stop with the supplier. Before long, your company goes belly up.
Has she ever had to veto a decision from yourself? Anything you really
daily? I mean, not daily. We weekly have a discussion about what we should and shouldn't be buying. Because I will sit with, say, the rep from Yamaha, Pearl, DW, and he'll be sitting going, I've got all this lovely stuff. What can I sell you? And then he'll say to me, that's fine, but we've got this bill to pay and that bill to pay, and we've got 75 kits on the shop floor. How many more do we need? So that's a constant push and pull, which I think in any business you have the accounts people and you have the sales people, and they're both fighting a different battle. I'm fighting to have as much stock as I can in the shop. Haley's fighting to keep a lid on the spending and pay the bills on time. And that's a challenge for any business. And it's been increasingly so in the last 2-3 years. Since the pandemic, it's been increasingly hard because the costs of everything have rocketed. So the costs of running the business have gone up astronomically. The margins haven't changed at all. Our sales have gone up. To be fair, our sales have grown year on year and continuing to do so. So it's good, but it's not easy. It's not a case of just coming to work, sit here drinking tea, eating biscuits, talking to drummers all day. And we work very hard to make it hopefully as good as it is. I was told many years ago, if your business isn't growing, it's dying. And I think there's a lot in that. I think you constantly have to be pushing to make everything better and do more. because if you don't, someone else will. There are people out there that will be snapping at our heels, that want to take our business and that will think they might be able to do what we do. And I had no idea when I started this 20 years ago that 10 years later I'd have a massive industrial unit, and now here we are, probably the biggest drum shop in the UK. A lot of the drum shops that I loved as a younger person have now disappeared. Paul Percussion, Birmingham Drum Centre, all those places that were just like the go-to places, no longer are in business. Drum right, they're not there. So it is tough. It's certainly got harder in the last 20 years than it maybe was in the past to run a drum shop. I think back in the day, you'd go to your local shop and you'd buy the drum kit. You didn't have the internet. You couldn't compare prices with every other seller in the world. So the margins were obviously more comfortable. It's easier to sell to your local market. The advantage is now I can sell to anywhere in the country or in the world because of the internet. So it's a swings and roundabout thing. But certainly the margins are constantly under pressure because there's somebody that will sell it for less money. It's walking a tightrope. Running a business is walking a tightrope between costs, and income, profit. There's a lot to it. I think a lot of people go to a drum shop, open a drum shop thinking this, I was going to sell some drums and sit around and chat to drummers all day. But the business side is far more complex than that. And that's where I'm very fortunate that Hayley is far more switched on than I am with those things.
I'd like to know a little bit more about how your accounts with, for example, you mentioned Mapex or Zildjian. Like, just logistically, how does that work with stock from them and selling it?
In the old days, there's things called sale or return. So the supplier would give you a drum kit, and if you didn't sell after 6 months, they'd take it back. Doesn't really happen anymore. It hasn't been like that for a long time. All the time I've been in this industry, that doesn't happen. So your man from Mapex will come and say, well, you want a Venus kit and you want a Saturn kit and you want an Armory, and what colours do you want, what sizes, and you place an order and they send you the drums and you get an invoice, which you pay maybe on 30 days. If you're very lucky, you might get it split over longer terms, but you pay that invoice. It's, whilst we have grown year on year, and it's been quite amazing how the business has gone compared to when you came to my house 15 years ago or 20 years ago. It's always been self-funded. All the money we make pretty much goes back into the business. So we're not sat here with pots and pots of cash in the bank. Our bank account is pretty much always empty, which is Hayley's argument of how we're going to pay these bills. Whatever money we do make gets piled back in either via secondhand or via new stock. So you constantly grow it. You've got more stock, more choice, and your sales grow accordingly. As I said before, if you've got less stock, someone comes to your shop and go, I haven't got much here, they might not bother coming again. But people will come here and we'll have probably more stock than last time they came, so they'll be excited. So people keep coming, they keep buying from us because hopefully our service is good. So you keep that upward momentum. And how long we can keep that going for, I guess it's an unknown thing. But certainly with the amount of shops that have either closed or now doing less than they were, we are clearly taking some of that business. And I think the growth becomes self-perpetuating. If you're good, people will tell other people that you're good. And if you've got stock, it's an upward thing. The minute it starts to go downwards, if you start getting a bad reputation, people come to your shop, they have a bad time, or you haven't got what they want, they're not going to come again. So going back to your question, accounts with new brands, it's an interesting relationship. They obviously, sometimes we're dealing with distribution companies, so it might not be the brand, or we could be dealing with the brand themselves. So some brands, say Pearl, Sona, Lionel, you deal directly with the brands. With other companies, you deal with a distribution company. They're buying it from the brand and then they're distributing it to retailers. A lot of the suppliers are overseas. A lot of them are in Europe. Obviously, Sona, Pearl, Lionel are all overseas. DW and Gretsch comes from Gaver, which is in Germany. So that's become challenging since Brexit, because obviously there's issues with importing goods and time delays. So if I phone up and I want something, I'm going to get it for 10 days, 14 days. which isn't great if you've got a customer stood in front of you and they want that snare drum or that snare drum stand. Which again comes back to the thing of holding stock. The more stock we can hold in this country, you go on my website today, order it. Hopefully you'll get it tomorrow if you order it before 2 o'clock. Whereas if I haven't got it, I don't have to get it from my supplier. It could be 10 days, could be 14 days if they're overseas. Obviously, the suppliers in this country, it's less of a problem if you can get it a bit quicker. So
I wonder
I'm not
more
sure.
about like with dealing with Pearl, your decisions into what you're buying from Pearl.
Mhm.
What's that? Is that based? Are you based looking at previous sales of gear? So do you think, I always want 5 exports in stock, or I want the Masters Customs? That decision of what you're taking from
Yeah,
them.
that's the biggest decision we have to make all the time because we don't have infinite money. And I will sit down with the rep and say, okay, well, it's obviously I've got what I like personally, but that's different to maybe what Sam or Jimmy or Rob might order. So I do speak to them and say, should we get this? Should we get that? I mean, for me, we should always have exports in stock because they are the go-to entry level. I say entry level, they're nearly £1,000 now. It's hardly entry level, but that's the level of kit that we would show to people coming in. We don't sell anything much below that. We don't sell Tornadoes or some really cheap Far Eastern stuff that is of suspect quality. I'm not saying the Tornado is, but you get below a certain level and it's not going to last. A drum kit is made to be hit, and if you buy a kit and the first day you hit it, the cymbals dent and the heads dent and the stands are rubbish, that's not a product I want to be selling. So if mum and dad and little Jimmy or Jemima come in and they want a drum kit, we would generally show them something around that level, maybe a Sonar AQX or a Pearl Export, and they come in between sort of £700 and £900. But with that, you get stands, cymbals, you get everything you need apart from the store. It's a complete package. And we say to them that you can upgrade the cymbals, you can upgrade the heads, there's things you can do, but ultimately it's a quality drum kit that you can play and you can still have it in 3, 4, 5 years' time. I don't want to sell junk and then have people sending it back. So I think we always need to have kits in of that level. So we would always have Pearl Exports in, Sonar AQXs or whatever. But obviously we tend to send predominantly more high-end gear. We're known for that. If you come into our store, the chances are you'll see a Pearl Masterworks, you'll see a Yamaha Phoenix, you'll see DW Collectors, you'll see a Sonar SQ2, you'll see a Tama Star. All the top brands are there, Gretsch USA, Gretsch Broadcaster. So you could compare all 6 of those kits. And I don't think there's many stores in the UK where you could do that. So that in itself makes us a destination store for a serious drummer. And the same for snare drums. We've got 180 snare drums ranging from 100 quid to probably 4,000 quid. So if you want to try a brass snare, we would have them from Gretsch, Yamaha, Pearl, Dharma, DW, and you can play them all and find the one you like. How you decide what to order, that is the $1 million question, because the reps are very good. They will tell you what their top sellers are. So I could go to any rep and say, what's your top 10 best-selling snare drums? What's your top 10 best-selling pedals? And they can give me the figures. That's fine. But that's not always hugely relevant to us because what Gear for Music sell or what PMT sell compared to us is completely different. It's a completely different market. A serious player is probably unlikely to go online and buy an SQ2 kit from Gear for Music. They're probably going to come to a store like ours or any of the other superb drum shops in the country. I'm not putting anyone down. Come to us and actually try it out and have a chat with people that really know drums and say, well, I'd like to compare it to a Tama Star. I'd like to compare it to a Pearl Masterworks. So I think that makes you the destination store. However, you can't just order 15 high-end kits because the prices are astronomical. Again, we've evolved to this stage. We never used to have that many. But I think a lot of our business is more high-end than low to mid-range. So the bias within the store is that way. So we always make sure we've got top-end stuff. We've always got a good selection of Tama, Gretsch, Pearl, DW, Ludwig, Simon, the list goes on. And the reps will speak to you and say, okay, so what have you got in stock? What haven't you got? What gaps have you got in the ranges? At the moment, we've got 4 Sonar vintage kits on the shop floor. I think we've got 1 SQ2, 1 SQ1. So it's always trying to balance it. But if you buy, we've got 4 Sonar vintages right now, but in 2 weeks' time, we might have none. It's it ebbs and flows all the time. There's no science to how we order. It's more of a gut feel. I will sit with Jimmy, I'll sit with Sam and Rob. Rob does most of our buying, and I'll say, we'll talk about it amongst ourselves, and we all like different things, and that's the good part of it. It's not just my decision, because Sam might say we need to get that. That will sell really quickly, and that's good. I'm talking to a customer, and he's after one of these. So we have a bit of a chat and we work it out between us. I'm sure I order stuff that they think, oh God, why has Graham ordered this? But that's just because, I'm often involved in the ordering. Sometimes I'll sit with a rep and they'll put something in front of me and go, like, this new product's coming out, and I think, my God, that's awful. And I'll show it to Rob and he'll go, oh, I love that. So we're all different. And that's the thing at the end of the day is, having done this for 20 years, I actually don't know any more than anybody else, because I can buy a kit in secondhand that I think is absolutely spectacular and it will sit on the shop floor for 6 months, and I can buy a kit in that I think is disgusting, terrible sizes, horrendous finish, that's what I think, and we'll sell it in a week. And that happens frequently, and I think I know nothing. The bottom line is there's a kit for everybody and we've all got different tastes. What I think is great and cool, you may not. And the same goes for Sam, Jimmy, and Rob. So I think the variety is also the good thing. We don't have, not all our kits are exactly the same size, exactly the same colour. Sometimes, particularly with the second-hand market, you'll get something in that's quite oddball at times. And we had one recently, and I'm like, Sam, why did you buy that? We took it in part X. It's kind of like it did facilitate the deal, but I thought it was virtually unsellable. But we've had two people very interested in it already. So you can never tell what people are going to buy. I'd like to sit and tell you that I know what's going on, but I don't. It's a decision.
I was going to ask next about, like, have you spotted has there been any trends in what people are buying, or in terms of kit sizes? And there was a phase where Tom's got quite shallow. And
the only trend I'm seeing is bass drums getting shallower. Everybody wants a 14-inch deep bass drum.
Mhm.
A few years ago, everyone had 22 by 20s and great long tubes of bass drums. So many people now want a 22 by 14 or a 24 by 14. They sound great. They don't take as much room on stage. They're easy to get in and out of your car. The big contentious issue still is whether you have a mount on your bass drum or not. That's a complete split, and there's no right answer. But for me, I would always have a mount on my bass drum, because I like toms on a bass drum. They're far more stable. I don't like having them on stands bouncing around. And I don't think for 1 second it's going to change the sound of my bass drum, because I've got a pillow in there anyway. I want my bass drum to go thud. If I wanted my bass drum to make a note that sounded sustained for 5 seconds, then maybe putting 2 heavy toms on top of it may affect that. But if you want a thud, I'm not sure putting toms on top of your bass drum will affect that. I could be completely wrong, but that's my opinion. But some people are most insistent that they won't buy a kit if it's got a mount on the bass drum, and other people are most insistent that is what they want. In fact, we have one customer who, whatever kit he buys, without fail, he gets his drill out and he drills a mount into it. And he bought a £8,500 lacquered DW from us. I mean, the most beautiful work of art drum kit you've ever seen. And the first thing he did was get his drill out and go straight through the bass drum. He does a very good job. I don't knock his craftsmanship, and it looks like it's factory installed. But then he comes and trades that kit in 6 months later. I'm like, you should put a mount in the bass drum. No, I want that. But they always sell. So I think there's a big split in that, and I think there's a conversation that some people get very opinionated about. But personally, so it's a matter of choice, and there's no right or wrong. But that trend-wise, other than that, I mean, cast metal snares are always popular. Bell brass snares, heavy metal brass snares, copper snares, they're always popular. We sell a lot of high-end snare drums. A lot of, it strikes me that people are quite happy to spend £800 to £1,000 or even more on a snare drum, even though they might not be buying a new kit. I think drummers get away with having plenty of snare drums, as I can see from your picture.
Yeah.
That's not all of them either. I've got 2 new ones I got from you a few weeks ago upstairs.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
I mean, drum kits are big things. If you're like my gent in Dorset and you've got 70 kits, it is a storage issue. Whereas maybe having 10 snare drums isn't so much of a storage issue, or certainly having 10 cymbals. The cymbals are fantastic, you can stack them up easily. But I think snare drums are so important because it's the key to everything. You know, when you hear a drummer, you pretty much hear the snare drum and you probably hear the cymbals. Certainly if you walk into a venue, you walk into a pub, if their cymbals are awful, it's just every time they hit a crash cymbal, you're like, oh my God, that is terrible. But you're going to hear the snare drum. You know, I'm getting into areas now where, this isn't me trying to sell drums at all. I'm going to talk you out of buying drums, but I truly believe if you've got a great snare drum and great cymbals, the rest of it is a lot less important, because ultimately your bass drum's going to go thud, certainly if you've got a mic in it, and your toms, you don't hit them as much, maybe not much at all in some songs, but have a great snare drum and have great cymbals. And I would put that, if you buy a Pearl Export, it's 950 quid or whatever, the minute you want to upgrade, I would buy a decent snare drum, I'd buy decent cymbals, because the rest of it does the job. The bass drum does the job. The toms will do the job. Put decent heads on them, they will sound pretty good. But if you've got a great snare and great hi-hats, that's the secret to making yourself sound good. And as you progress, have more snare drums. Have a wood snare, have a melt snare, have a shallow snare, have a deep snare. The snare drum is everything. I listen to records and I go, man, that snare drum is just incredible. That's the thing that always gets me. You're a great drummer on a great snare drum, and I think, that's it. It's lovely to have an expensive shell pack. Don't get me wrong, we all have an expensive shell pack. But if I have to go and do a gig tomorrow, I really, if you're supplying me a rental kit, just make sure the snare drum's good and the cymbals are good. The rest of it I can cope with, that would be my thing.
Yeah.
So not a lot of trends. No. Any other trends? I think it's a problem for the drum manufacturers because they have to keep reinventing the wheel. Yet, what is it? It's a wooden cylinder with a bit of plastic stretched over it. And they've been making drums at a very high level for the last 30 years. I think drums in the 60s, whilst they sounded good, they weren't round and the bearing edges were a bit honky and the fittings were awful, the spurs were terrible. But certainly by the 80s, the shell technologies were good. The shells are round, and bearing edges were a lot better. So now all a drum manufacturer can do is give you a nicer finish. What can you do to improve a drum? Even by, whether you buy a Tile Star Classic or a Pearl Masters or whatever, they're all beautifully made. The quality's great, the shells are round, they sound phenomenal. So they have to keep coming up with something to make you think, I need that new product. And I think it's very hard with drums. It's the oldest instrument in the world, and there's not really a lot of science to it, And you could argue the same with guitars. I mean, what can you do with a Gibson Les Paul or a Stratocaster? I don't know, but that's not my problem. I'm not in that world. I'm sure it's something new effects box or a new amplifier. But with a drum, I think it's incredibly hard to improve upon what's being built for the last 20 years. I've got Pearl Masters kit from the late 90s, and it's absolutely superb. And I could buy a brand new Pearl Masters kit, but nothing's really moved. I don't know where drum kits will be in 50 years' time, because I don't know how they can improve on what's being built currently. So if you guys have got any ideas on that.
I'd just say trends. I'd say current trends might be bigger cymbals at the moment.
Yeah. Yeah.
I agree with the shallower bass drums.
Yeah, shallower big cymbals. Obviously, the Minor thing is huge. We sell so many Byzants. I mean, those cymbals are great, and we sell a lot of those. Certainly, bigger cymbals are the thing. But shallow bass drums, other than that, I don't really know.
Shall we move on to our last question, George?
Yeah, let's do it.
You touched on it earlier. We ask every guest who their favourite delivery company is. Not quite sure why anymore these days, but
well, judging by the size of me, it's probably Uber Eats, isn't it?
Obviously, Graham Russell Drums uses DPD.
We use DPD predominantly, but we use other couriers too, because we do ship worldwide, and we do use Royal Mail, Parcel Force. But DPD we've tried many couriers, and we sell a lot. We send lots of products out every day, and they have the most consistent for us. This isn't an advert for DPD. I don't get paid to say this. They are.
Don't worry, a lot of people have. It's number one. We think that's the number one choice.
Number one.
With all the drummers we've chatted to. Yeah.
I'm surprised I thought you were saying, who's your favourite drummer or something, but who's your favourite delivery company? That's
we try and stay away from the
Ridiculous
generic
stuff.
questions. You know, who's your
that's
favorite
good.
drummer? You know,
Yeah.
just throwing a curveball.
We just, you know, and I think as well, being drummers, if you have ordered something from your good self, Graham, it's something big, it's expensive, and it's something you're very passionate about. The delivery of that product, of a drum or a cymbal,
is important.
Is very important.
And that's why we have guys packing the stuff and we overpack it. As I say to them, you have to think, would I be happy to receive this box? Would I be happy that my £350 cymbal has arrived packaged like this? Because you see horror stories on Facebook of people getting cymbals sent in like plastic bags or terribly low, and that's just not acceptable. It's a high value instrument. You've got to pack it so it cannot get destroyed. You take the view that the delivery driver is going to drop it out of his truck onto concrete from 12 feet, because they do. You know, I've seen delivery drivers kicking stuff out of lorries before, and not from DPD, but from other companies. And you have to take the view that, you know, they don't care. They're going to climb over those boxes and throw them around. And if you don't pack it adequately, ultimately it's down to you. You can shout and scream about the delivery company all you want, but you're not being realistic if you think that they're going to handle it with care. It's not. They're too busy. They've got 50,000 parcels to shift, and they're going to get it done as quickly as they can. So I think you have to take responsibility as the shipper to ensure that it gets there in one piece. And even we get it wrong sometimes. Occasionally things get damaged, but rarely, thankfully.
Is there anything you wouldn't send out that you'd be like, no, we can't put this in the post?
The only thing we are reluctant to send normally are acrylic kits. I once bought an acrylic kit for a customer of mine. It was from another dealer, and when it arrived, the bass drum was in two pieces. So, I mean, we have shipped acrylic kits before, and acrylic kits get shipped to us by manufacturers, and they learn how to package them very well. So if you've got all the original packaging, that's fine. But we have, I mean, a couple of weeks ago, Haley and I drove to Wolverhampton, which is 3 hours probably from here, to drop off an acrylic kit. Because I said, by the time we've packed it, the money we spend on boxes and bubble wrap is astronomical. And we could go to a lot of trouble packing this kit. And when it gets there, if it's in pieces, it's more trouble than it's worth. So Haley and I took the view that we'd jump in the van and we'd go for a 3-hour drive. It's quite pleasant. So acrylic kits are the worst thing. But we have shipped them before. But other than that, no, we've shipped stuff to Australia. It's mad.
Wow.
Yeah, we ship stuff to the Middle East quite often. We're quite amazed that people in Australia are buying products from us, but there we go.
Yeah. All started from your garden. Now
All started from my spare bedroom, then the garden, and now we're here. And yeah, it's still growing. You know, our sales are good, and we're up on last year, and we're still trying to be better than we were. There's a million things we could do better. There's still more we could do to our website. There's more we could do business-wise to grow this business. It's just trying to manage that in a way that will work for us.
I mean, I recently went in and Rob helped me grab a couple of snare drums, and you know, I had an idea of what I wanted, and he was just like, he understood what I wanted, and he got me a lot of selections, helped tune them up, and let me play them, and he'd play them so I could hear them.
Yeah,
it's just amazing. I came away with 2 snare drums, and it's kid in a toy shop stuff, really, isn't it? And
yeah, well, that's exactly the thing. The staff here, I mean, those guys know way more than I do. Rob, Jimmy, Sam, you know, we've got Luke, we've got Robin. Jimmy, Sam, and Rob play all the time. They are obsessed with drums. They've done recording sessions, they've done gigs, they've done functions. There's not really anything they haven't done. So they know, if you say to them, I'm looking for this sound, they probably know how to get it. And if they don't, they'll certainly help you find it. So, and that is all part of the fun, is trying out a load of drums and going, yeah, that's the one I want.
I think I'll just say that's so important. You mentioned it a few times, they're having the stock in, because there's certain places, and I won't mention the names, but certain stores that I've been to, and you go and you ask if they have something, and they say, oh no, we don't stock those anymore. And, you know, almost immediately you go, well, I might not come here next time, you know. And I didn't even think of that being a thing, but obviously that's so obvious. And if there's all these choices,
yeah, that's the thing, the choice. And when when I went in and said to Rob, I'm looking for ideally maybe a brass snare drum of this size, and it's like, here's 6.
Yeah.
and here's 5, and then here's the wild card, that
Yeah.
and having that choice, and then you can try them and find that one you want. Yeah.
And that goes back to the conversation I had about Hayley, who looks after the accounts and the finance. She'll be tearing her hair out saying to me, why have we got so many brass snare drums? And I'm like, Hayley, you're not a drummer. You don't understand. It's important. They are all different. She's like, well, they all look the same to me, But yeah, having the choice is great. There was a store locally to us which no longer exists, so it doesn't matter. But one of my customers, who's a friend of mine, went in there to try something, and they had a snare drum, and the drum guy was out that day, so they had somebody from another department looking after him. And my mate said to this guy, I'm going to try the snare drum. The guy went, yeah, help yourself. And my mate said, have you got a drum key? And the guy went, no. And my mate said, oh, shall I go out to my van and get one? And the guy went, yep. That's customer service. That shop's no longer in business. So I've heard so many horror stories of people having a terrible time. And I think people wonder why they're not doing well in retailing. And I think maybe, not always, but sometimes it's kind of staring them in the face. You have to work very hard to make it work. It's a tough game. It's not just a case of sitting around and the business comes to you. But I think if you're good and you treat your customers with respect and really make them have a good time, they're not going to go anywhere else. Why would they?
I think the beauty you guys have is you don't make it look hard. So when you go, it's
a bit like
relaxed.
a swan, isn't it? They're under the water, we're pedaling like mad. The guy looks serene.
I'm the same with the studio. I'm like, yeah, it's great, and I'm just trying to run a business.
Yeah. It's that constant thing. Treat customers well. Just treat them how you want to be treated. Make it nice. That's all I say to people. I think a lot of people have got that wrong over the years.
Yeah. Well, we'll let you get back to your busy shop. So thanks so much, Graham, for chatting to us.
You.
Yeah.
Thank you. I really enjoyed it. I'm sorry if I've talked too much. I feel like
no, it's great.
Never apologise for that. It's perfect guess.
So, I really enjoyed that. Thanks, guys. And
thank you.
Yeah, hopefully we'll speak again soon.
Yeah, well, I'll be down the shop soon, no doubt.
Thank you.
Always looking for something new. Cool. Cheers, Graham. Thanks very much.
Thanks. Bye.
Cheers, mate. Bye. There we go. I'll do that again. No, keep that.
Yeah, keep it in.
Keep it in. There we go. Yeah, Graham.
Yeah.
I mean, if you've not been, highly recommend you go.
Can I say, you live fairly close to Graham Russell, and I used to live fairly close. What a blessing.
Oh, it really is. It really is. Like, to have that. When you hear about people traveling, 5 hours to go to the shop, and I can get there in 15 minutes.
Yeah.
It's great. And I don't know if I mentioned this fully while we were chatting, but, we talked about a lot of the pros of the shop and why they are so good and what makes them stand out. But there really is the balance of knowledgeable and friendly staff.
Yep.
I think just the innate kid-like nature of seeing all these drum kits, and it's such a visceral experience. Seeing drums, they're big, they're shiny, they make loud noise. It's like kid in a toy shop kind of thing as a drummer. But I think he's right in that they don't sell shit.
Yeah.
They don't have those cheap kits for 200 quid. But what they do have is they have, the second-hand gear. It's like you can find absolute bargains.
Yeah.
And because the stock changes so regularly, I've got that Yamaha Rock Tour kick drum, one up, one down, the green one. I got that second-hand. It was like 250 quid.
And it's from Graham Russell?
Yeah, from Graham Russell. Second-hand. That green kick drum has been used on, I'd say, 90% of recordings in this studio.
Yeah.
And I like just going, I'll even go online, I'll just see like used drum kits, and I'll just see if there's anything I think, oh, that's something I haven't got, and it's pretty well priced, but they cover that whole spectrum. And it's
they put up a cymbal listing the other day, and I called up like the morning it went on, and there was a Zildjian K something that I'd always dreamed of for under 300 quid. I was like, oh my God. And I called it 9:30 in the morning. Like, it's already gone, But I kind of said to the guy, I was like, yeah, of course it is, you know. He was
Yeah.
like, yeah.
But I think all of that plays into, you know, in a world where so much stuff is online, that the physical nature of that store and that experience is really is key. And I think it's very key to drumming and drummers. Rare, or really, if you've got the chance to go and try stuff, you really should.
I mean, the stock thing, I said it to him, and I have to say it here again. It's just, that's seems such an obvious thing to always have stock in, because I've gone to many different music shops for different things, you know, whether it's like a music book or, you know, I was saying, I won't name the shop, but I went in to buy a cajon once, and I said, hi, you know, I'm here to buy a cajon. I didn't really care what kind of cajon I got. I just needed one for an acoustic set.
I got an acoustic gig tomorrow. I haven't thought about it.
Exactly.
I need a box to sit on.
I've never played a cajon, and I need one for tomorrow.
Yeah.
And they were like, oh, we don't have any. And I went, oh, okay. Well, we can order you one in. You might get it next month. What the? No, like, you know, and it's just, I never went there again, you know. And I think they've kind of absolutely smashed every different business aspect, you know. It's a nice place to go. It's well stocked, you know. It's and it's talked about. It's almost, you know, when people use like the term Google, it's like a verb, like, oh, just Google it. I almost feel like Graham Russell, that is almost a thing of like, go Graham Russell, you know what I mean? It's like, oh, I need a new, let's go Graham Russell, you know what I mean? Amongst drummers, you know, it is iconic. So
so it's great to have him on the show. Speaking of drummers, speaking of new drummers, so my brother came down to Tann last weekend and brought my niece with him. Now she is soon to be starting drum lessons at school. I think it might just be group lessons to start with, see how she gets on. But for Christmas, I bought from Graham Russell, I bought a pair of sticks, a stick bag, and a practice pad. So she at least had something at home she could just hit on, you know. Obviously, I got all the good stuff. She ain't playing no shit. She came down and she really wanted to come and play a drum kit. So I set up one of the rehearsal kits, and but with the new Victoriana promo we spoke about last week, I played her some of that so she could see and hear me drumming. And as I mentioned, one of the songs we do is the theme tune from Friends, right? And in the bridge, it moves on to the toms, you know, with the backbeat,
a bit more Jungle Book.
Yeah, a little bit more Hives Jungle Book. Yeah, what a lovely callback. What a lovely callback.
Listen to last week's episode. Yeah.
And so she went in the room, she's playing the drums, and we tried to see if she could get a beat going, you know. First thing, she naturally went open-handed.
Interesting. Is she left-handed?
I don't think she is.
Oh, that is interesting.
But anyway, and then she was just playing, and she just kept hitting tom, snare, kick, crash, tom, just one at a time. Just keep going around.
Yeah.
You know, and after a while you think, all right, change it up a bit, you know.
This is shit.
Yeah, there's no groove here, love. This is all just, you're trying to show off.
Yeah.
You know, it's not the drum solo. We get the backbeat down first. And then she just went, I'm trying to do the bit that you did. She'd heard me do the tom section in Friends.
Oh, cool.
And she was trying to do it. That's what she'd seen me do. And she was just hitting tom, snare, crash, tom.
Wow.
I mean, it was, you know, inaccurate.
Yeah.
But I thought, isn't that
rubbish.
lovely? She'd seen what I did and she was trying to do that. So that was
That's
nice.
very sweet. How old is she?
6.
Yeah. Yeah. Fair enough.
Yeah.
Well, you know.
So that was nice.
Yeah, that is nice.
Yeah. And then she said, I want to be a pop star. I don't want to be a doctor. It's too hard. I want to be a pop star. And then she went, I am a pop star. I was like, cool.
There you go.
Yeah.
Completed it. Done.
Yeah. But
no, that's lovely.
play cross-handed. Come on.
Yeah.
Let's not dick about. That's
Nice.
great.
Yeah.
Let's wrap up there, shall we?
Yeah.
Thank you very much for listening.
Yeah.
As always, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, subscribe, rate us 5 out of 5, please. Get us a follow on give us a follow on the old Instagram. Get in touch. Yep. Let us know what's going on. What's going on in your world?
Yeah.
Of drumming or outside of drumming. This can be your place for anything.
Message us about anything.
But I've been Ben Whitney, and that has been George Pickering, the jumper wearing legend.
And as always, if this is your first listen, because it's a fairly big name guest, please stick around. Go back, listen to the other episodes. That's how, a few people have done that. They join later. I mean, if you join in now, you join in later. But also, maybe this is still an early time to join. How long are we going to do this,
Good question. Very good question. But we'll love you and leave you. Enjoy the rest of your week. And we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to Drum and Drummer. You can find us on Instagram at Drum and Drummer Podcast. And you can send us an email to drumanddrummerpod@gmail.com. Remember, just pick up the sticks and twat it.